This is an instructional video on how to keep score in a Quizbowl match in a non-rebounding 2020 national format match. So, your first responsibility as a scorekeeper is to fill out the appropriate information at the top. So, if we assume that this is a round 1 game, you are in room, let's say 609, which is my room. This is packet 1. You put the name of your moderator down, which is, in this case, Kennedy, and we'll put scorekeeper as Kennedy, just to keep things consistent. This is all important information so that if something goes wrong, or if a score sheet is missing, then it's easy to track down the one that is missing, or the person who filled things out wrong if there's anything wrong. Next thing that you need to do is you need to fill out the appropriate teams. Just ask the team if there's not a schedule available. Just ask, who are you? And they'll say something like, oh, we're Hannibal. And the other team might say, we're Hickman B. It's very important that you specify B, C, or A if there are multiple teams. So feel free, even if they just say, hey, we're Hannibal, to say, are you Hannibal A or B? And they'll let you know which one's which. Next thing you got to do is you have to fill in the names of each player on the team. So we've got Billy, Joe, Jim, and Bob for Hannibal, and Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John for Hickman. Now, it's possible that they might have a sub, so let's say that Hickman B is rocking a Simon in this case, and we'll come back to that later on what you do with the subbing. While the game is going on, you are to keep track of who scores what points, and so somebody can score a 10 if it's a regular, a 15 if it's a power, and they might get a -5 if they buzz in early and are wrong. They're the first person to do so. Just your basic scoring rules. Really leave that up to your moderator. Have your moderator say 10, 15, -5, and it'll be much easier on you, the scorekeeper, to keep track of that stuff. If somebody gets a question correct, they get access to a bonus. It's a 3-part bonus. Each part of the bonus is worth 10 points. So what your concern is not which ones they get right, but your concern is how many points they get on each bonus question. So if they get 2 out of 3, just write in 20. If they get all of them, write in 30. Then you write in the question total. They got 30 on this, and just for the sake of keeping score going along the way, the running total, write 30 down here. On this question, the number 2 question, they got 45 as their question total, and so now they have a running total of 75. These guys do not get the bonus because they negged, so -5, now they have 70. And you go on and on and on and on and on throughout the game until that's over. Your next responsibility as scorekeeper is, when the game is over, to fill in the final score. So if these people win 300 to 150, that's what you do. Also, at the end of the game, you have to total up in these boxes how many of each question they got right. Did they get? How many powers did they get? How many regulars did they get? How many -5s did they get? So, if we've got a 2, 3, 1, say 1, 1, 1, let's say 4, 2, 0, 5, nah, that's impossible, we don't want to give them 5, so I think this was 4, and then 0, 1, 0, and see this person got 0, 0, 1. You say, wait, I had 4 people playing before. So let's drop down here to Hickman. So if that happened with Hickman, where John played the first half, and then Simon played the second half, you need to mark that for the stats keeper so that they know that somebody played only half a game, and that's easy. If Simon's sitting there the entire time, just make a mark through the questions he's sitting there for. If he comes in later, whoever he subs in for, let's say he comes in for Mark gets a line through his second half. These guys, now Simon is in. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 people playing the game. This is really important for stats keeping, because if someone only plays half a game but they score 150 points, that's going to boost their average more than if they played a full game and scored 150 points. So be sure to keep track of, just with simple lines through these questions, how many questions a person actually heard. So back to this responsibility, which is totaling up the questions of each type that the person scored. Make sure that you do this. Don't do the math for them. Just don't do the math for the scorekeeper, or the stats keeper, I mean. Just say how many powers they got. Don't say they got 30 points, because a stats keeper is going to put that in as 30, and it's going to look like that individual got 30 powers, which is impossible. One, because there's only 20 questions in a game, and two, because that would just be terrifying to everybody involved in Quizbowl all across the nation if somebody managed to get 30 powers in a 20-question game. So just write out how many of each kind they got, and the computer system will take care of the rest. You don't need to add up how many points each person individually scored. You don't have to add up how many bonus points each person or each team scored, because the computer will take care of that. As long as you do this and this accurately, the computer will take care of every other statistic necessary. Over the course of a game, if anybody requests score check, then you stop. And if you've been keeping a running total, it'll be really easy to say, it's 70-0. If you're not keeping a running total well, just pause, they'll understand, do the math really quick, and then tell them. If there are disputes over the score, then go through with the coach or the player involved and say, on question 1 you got 30, on question 2 you got 45, on question 3 you negged, until there's some discrepancy, and talk it out. Like, well, I've got us down as having 30 on that bonus. Maybe your moderator will be able to say, actually, you only got 2 parts. You missed the part about that was Lincoln Douglas debates, and things will get covered. But you as a scorekeeper, you just make sure that your numbers are there for easy consultation. Moderator should be able to take care of the rest of that garbage. At halftime, without being requested, give a score check. Tell them how much each team has. They'll be able to work out any discrepancies if there are any at that point. And then at the end of the game, announce the final score, and they'll know who won. At that point, take the score sheet to the stats room, drop it off, and get the next packet of questions. That's very important. Grab the next packet of questions from the stats room workers and take it back to your moderator immediately. You are responsible for getting those questions to the moderator. Don't worry about taking questions back to the stats room at the end of a match, because a lot of moderators will just stack them up and then hand them to teams at the very end of the tournament, so that the teams can walk out with packets in hand. There's not really much else to talk about in terms of the nitty-gritty of things. Some of this stuff is going to depend on style. Some folks like to cross out questions, that people didn't answer right, so they know, they don't lose their place. So if Hickman B gets the next few questions, just by, to make things clear, they might want to put lines through Hannibal's to make sure that they don't accidentally say that, then they got 10 on question 4. It's probably a good idea to mark through bonuses, question totals, just to help you keep track of things, but none of that is necessary. Again, all that matters is attributing the right questions to the right people, counting those things up at the end, and then getting those final scores right.